recorded at Get a Grip Studios in Toronto, Canada, a Get a Grip management production and in association with the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Financially supported by the good folks at the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, this is Restoring Darkness podcast.
This episode of Restoring Darkness is brought to you by Evluma. If you're serious about contributing to the reduction of light pollution, go to evluma.com, hover over products, and click on Dark Sky Friendly Lighting. Both the OmniMax and AreaMax lights are International Dark Sky Association certified. The warmer color temperatures of the OmniMax reduce the more easily scattered blue wavelengths, which contribute to glare and sky glow. With AreaMax lights, you get full cutoff, which also means no uplight and a significantly reduced contribution to sky glow. And all of Evluma's outdoor lighting product lines come with dimmable drivers for even more control. If your customer is looking for dark sky-friendly fixtures with energy savings while still meeting the demands of decorative lighting, look no further than Evluma. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of dark skies.
Welcome back to the Restoring Darkness podcast. On today's show, I have a really complicated German name guy. Again, more Germans. It seems like there's tons of Germans in this dark sky space. They love it. Lots of Canadians too, though. I'm speaking with Bernd Pröschold. He's an I'm sure I messed up his name really bad, and he'll correct me in 1 second. But he's an astrophotographer and author, and from 1998 to 2003, he studied communication science, sociology, and cultural studies at the University of Münster in Germany. Shortly after, he started to produce astronomical time-lapse videos, an activity which turned into a profession. His footage has been distributed by TV stations, planetariums, and different agencies. The European Public Service Channel, ARTE, accompanied his work in the documentary Expedition Starry Sky. In recent years, Bernd has been performing increasingly as an artist and a writer. In addition to numerous contributions to astronomical journals, he published the book, hard to pronounce German name, he'll say it in 1 second, but it's translated as Destination Starry Sky, a guide to the best astronomical observing sites in Central Europe and Scandinavia. His astronomical photographs have been featured in a large number of exhibitions in Germany and abroad. His website, sternstunden.net, that's sternstunden.net, and he's on Facebook at Bernd Pröschold on Facebook there, yeah. And he's going to tell us how to pronounce his name and how to pronounce his book in 1 second. But before we do, we have to thank the members of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors who present this show. Go to naild.org if you are a lighting distributor and you want to help out the darkness restoration and preservation movement. How's it going, Bernd? Nice to have you on the show.
Thanks, I'm very fine. Thank you for the invitation. And your introduction was quite fine regarding the pronunciation of my name. It's Bernd Pröschold, and the book is Reiseziel Sternenhimmel. So it's about the destinations where you still can see the stars in Europe.
We've often talked about this. The show used to be called Starving for Darkness in the old days when we first started it, and now we've changed the name to Restoring Darkness. And more of a mission rather than pointing out the hunger and the pain. It's become, how do we accomplish this century? And so on this show, we believe that the issue is going to take a long time to fix, but not that long. Maybe one person's lifetime will be enough time for us as a species to understand that light pollution is pollution and correct the problem. And that first step, one of the first things we have to do is make darkness and starry skies economically viable, right? And I think that's what you're doing here is highlighting the value or the treasure of this. Tell me a little bit about the process by which you go about doing that, creating a book about destination starry skies and kind of seducing people into the movement. How do you go about thinking about something like that?
Oh, that has been very many points in one
Yeah,
question.
one question. Yes,
So just let me try to pick up
sure.
on one point. It's you asked how I came to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, as you told in the introduction, I'm a photographer. I've been very much a time lapse photographer, but just night sky, just astronomy related. And I've been doing this since many, many years. And of course, I made a long way through many different regions of Europe. And so actually, I produced this footage and those pictures not to save the world, but because I like to take pictures, and of course I try to generate a little bit of money out of these pictures. And and of course, looking for dark sky sites is a very important part. The location scouting. It's not possible to go out there, put up my camera, and take time lapse of the night sky because everything is polluted. So I have to very, very, very carefully select where I go. And after many years doing this, I tried more and more to reflect about it and reflect about the environmental impact. And so I was very, very well prepared to write such kind of book and to discuss about the problems generated by light pollution.
And what are some of the problems?
Well, of course, it's a large number of problems. I think in the view of an astrophotographer, it's not just the intensity of the light; it's the fact that the light is spreading over hundreds of kilometers. So actually, if I want to go to a really, really dark side from where I live in the center of Europe, in Cologne, it's impossible when I drive 2 days with my car
Hmm.
because the darkest place I come to is in central Scandinavia. And in central Scandinavia, there is no place where you have 200 kilometers around you without a village. It's not possible. And I think Canada is a little bit better because you have more countryside. But in Europe, it's absolutely impossible. And so I have always to do a little bit of compromise when taking my pictures.
Mm.
And if I get older, I'm starting to appreciate that there are more important aspects of light pollution than just connection to the cosmos. I think biodiversity, from my current view, is the most important problem light pollution is causing.
I disagree with that. I think the connection to the cosmos is the most important part. And I know it seems strange to say that, but I want to bring you back to that because I think that's what we've lost is the connection to the cosmos. And I think that if we get that connection back, it's kind of step one for us to fix everything else. Like we have to realize that we're on a wet rock spinning around a nuclear fusion reactor in the middle of an enormous universe, and what a miracle all this is, and have some gratitude, and then start living that out. And I feel like the first step towards that, Bernd, is really to reconnect to the cosmos, and whether that's God or however you want to describe it, I think it's the most important part. I think you should come back to that side.
Yeah, I don't have to come back because you pretty well described my mission. That's today. It's not just about taking images; it's also about the story. And in my philosophy, we are cosmic beings, and it's very, very maybe the most important part of my work today to not just to take pictures, but to tell a story about us and our species in the universe. But I just had a view from a very economic, strategic point on this issue, and I think biodiversity, if you see it under a political aspect, is very, very, very important. And so let's say it depends on the point of view.
Or perspective, yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
what you're saying in biodiversity, you're saying that there are already laws? that exist that protect biodiversity? Is that why that's an advantage? Why is biodiversity so, or is it just public awareness of biodiversity is very high and that we should leverage that issue? What do you mean when you say politics?
Yeah, actually, I'm not a biologist. It's just I attended a workshop about light pollution last week,
Mm.
actually organized by your last guest,
Okay.
Etta,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, it was in my hometown in Cologne
Mm.
where she organized the workshop, and well, the issue was discussed under a lot of aspects. And actually, to answer your question, I'm not a biologist, so I
Mm.
can't tell you exactly what's the problem. But from what I heard from the speakers at that workshop, it's a lot of problems because it's not just about some insects living in the
Mm.
night. It's about birds. It's about even about fishes. It's the whole. Oh, that's difficult for me to get the word in English. It's in German. It's Nahrungskette. It's the chain of eating each others.
Sure.
How do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say
yeah.
that
The
in
food
English?
chain. The food chain. Yeah,
The
sure.
food
The food.
chain, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a whole
sure.
food chain, and it's also plants. It's everything
Mm.
is affected, and that's
Mm.
what I learned. And that's how you get, at least in my hometown, if you want to get politicians interested in this issue, you don't should not tell them about our connection to the cosmos. You should tell them about the animals dying.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. It's an interesting point. There's a lot of problems in this movement, Bernd. One of the major problems is that we don't have a way to measure light pollution either. Did you know that? That nobody knows how to measure it?
Yeah. Yes, actually, I discussed that at that workshop. In Germany, we have a specialist measuring the degree of light pollution, and actually, I think he is a Canadian originally. I'm not
Chris
so sure.
Kaiba?
It's Christopher Tyler.
Yeah, he's
Yes,
Canadian. Yeah. I
yes,
don't know. I
he's.
have to talk to, I haven't talked to him in over 2 or 3 years now, maybe longer. Um, when last I checked, there wasn't a measurement. There was another one in the another scientist we had on, and he was saying after the show that they don't have a way to measure the increases in light pollution. They can measure different kinds of light pollution, but there's no way of saying your light pollution has gone up 30% in the last 10 years, or there's no baseline. And the satellites, Chris Kaiba told me this actually, the satellites that we use to measure light pollution don't register anything above 3,000 Kelvin. So they don't register
Mhm.
any of the new LED lights that we have out there. So
Yeah,
we can't even
actually,
measure it.
yeah, that's just what Christopher told me, that it's
Yeah.
so difficult to measure. And of course, he is the expert.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I tried a little bit to disagree because as an astronomer, you are used to use sky quality meter
Mm.
to measure the brightness of the dark night sky. And of course, the problem to make such measurement valid is the dust in the atmosphere. If you have
Mm.
more dust and
Sure.
more the air is wet,
Hmm.
you have more the sky gets brighter.
Hmm.
Um, but I think if you do it on long term and you make a lot of measurements, I think astronomers have quite good of an idea how bright their skies are and how this brightness is developing over years.
Well, I mean, I think we need a standard, an international standard of some kind. We need to get all the smart guys, smash their heads together, and they come up with a standard. I think we need something like that to help us forward. I often say that, stepping back away from all the podcasts and all the work we've done with Nailed on darkness restoration, and that's why I don't think dark skies is the right term, Bernd. You know how you hear the dark skies? I don't think that describes it properly. I think we want to restore darkness and preserve darkness, and that encapsulates what we're talking about more.
It's difficult for me as a German to understand because there are certain nuances in the
Sure.
wording, so it's difficult to get the difference between dark sky and restoring darkness.
Well, dark sky,
Because
we
both is
actually don't,
dark, so we want it dark.
we actually don't want dark skies. We want bright skies filled with stars, and we want dark earth and dark water. So,
I see. I see.
it's dark sky is the wrong term. It doesn't
Now I got
accurately
you.
describe the problem. You know, um,
Yeah.
so that's why when we talk about it, we talk about night restoration or darkness restoration, preservation of night, preservation of darkness, and I think because it encapsulates the biodiversity, it encapsulates the cosmos. It helps the astronomers. It addresses all areas of the movement that are important. I think it's going to take 100 years. I think it's going to take us 100 years to fix this problem, Bernd. Um,
Yeah, when do you think is the problem fixed? So which degree of darkness is your goal? I think no artificial light at all is not realistic. So you should
no.
define what's your goal.
I think we can optimize color temperatures, get really, really tight on color temperatures. Obviously, some color temperatures are a lot worse than others. I think we can eliminate sky glow with that's created by vertical illumination or like vertically pushed out lumen. We can eliminate sky glow probably by 99%. And sky glow is really what you're talking about as an astronomer. Sky glow is really the big problem. Um, the other thing is light trespass can be 100% eliminated, totally eliminated. There's no almost 99% of light trespass. Sky glow can be almost 100% eliminated, and then we need a way to measure how light comes off the Earth and is re-reflected back up into the sky, which we don't have right now. So
Yeah, there was a study. I think you heard about Italian researcher Fabio Falci.
no, I don't.
Fabio Falci.
Okay, and he studied how the light reflects back up off the
Yeah,
ground
and
into the atmosphere.
he asked. There are two kinds of light. Is a direct light. If you have a lamp which is poorly shaded, then the light goes up
Yeah,
directly, direct
yeah,
emission.
yep,
And then there is the indirect emission when the lamp is illuminating the ground,
yep,
and the light is reflected from the ground
yes,
to the sky.
yes,
And he tried to find out what's the amount of the stupid direct
sure,
emission.
yes,
And I don't know exactly his method, but he definitely worked with snow. So he tried to find out how bright it is. Is it after heavy snowfall, if everything is white on the ground and
sure,
we have 100% reflection?
sure.
And then he measured what happens if there's no snow. And I don't know exactly what he did, but in the end, his conclusion was that 50 to 90% of the sky glow is caused by direct emissions,
Yes,
and
yes.
10 to 50% is caused by indirect emissions because it's reflected from the ground.
I also think that LED lighting is a lot better at being re-reflected from, or worse, I should say, that LED lighting is more reflective off the ground than traditional HPS and other sources were. I think there's something about the chip diode way of producing light and the way it comes out of the optics in the fixture, which is better tuned for reflection off asphalt and concrete back into the sky. So I think LEDs are making the problem a lot worse than HPS and metal halide would have done in the old days. I think we need to get Fabio Falci on the Restoring Darkness podcast producer. We got to talk to this fellow.
You should definitely.
But I'll give you an example. Like we're really far behind. Like most people think light pollution is a metaphor, Bernd. They think it's a metaphor. You know what that English word means, metaphor? I know you're
I
German.
understand,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
have to tell me a metaphor for what.
What they're saying is, and when they say light pollution, is they mean that light pollution is kind of like pollution, but it's not. So what we're saying is that when you say light pollution, what people think you mean, politicians and citizens, they think you mean like nuisance lights that are nuisance, like a nuisance. They don't actually believe that the light is pollution and that it causes harm and that it in
See.
and of itself, they think that you're making a comparison in order to highlight or exaggerate nuisance lighting. It's not a nuisance. It's actually pollution, and it causes a lot of problems. And so the first step for us is to realize this. We're so far behind, Bernd, and I'm going to tell you why. One of the things that I saw on Twitter the other day was a shot, a night sky shot of North and South Korea. Okay? And the person's point was that the sign of democracy and success and everything is light pollution. Like that's the signal, the sign that, everything is so much better in South Korea because look how much light pollution there is. And so light pollution is actually looked at as a sign of success, economic success and might and power, economic power. And we need to change that it should be a shame that countries that are so wealthy are also engaging in such a horrible practice of irresponsible light pollution. And people don't care.
I completely agree that education is the most important step to take and the most efficient, because if people understand what's going on, they have a bad connotation of light, of artificial light, and so it's no longer possible to have cities like Las Vegas because people will not like it. So, education is very important. And regarding your remark on South and North Korea, in philosophy there is the concept of the sublime.
Sublime,
it
yes.
has been coined by German philosopher Immanuel Kant, and it's about the greatness of nature. And it's not just about the greatness of nature, it's about the dwarfing humans. If we see the greatness of nature, of the night sky, of the starry sky, we understand how little we are. So this is his concept. And today, theorists developed a new concept of the sublime. It's a modern technological sublime. This is what you described in South Korea, that technology itself, so things produced by humans, can be sublime. So I don't follow that, but I'm aware that this concept has been coined today.
What is the German word for sublime? What is the word in German?
It's das Erhabene. So difficult to say what's erhaben. It's related to higher. It's erhaben.
So sublime is one of those words in English where sublime is both terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time. That's kind of what sublime means, right?
Yeah, and that's the original sense of the word, how it was coined by Kant.
Yeah.
So it's both horrifying and great.
Yes, and
it's horrifying because it's so much bigger than humans.
Yeah, it's terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like what Christians would call the fear of God is the sublime realm, right?
Yeah, there is definitely a religious aspect in it.
Yes. The idea of technology having its own sublimity, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Like that makes me uncomfortable a little bit, but it reminds me, do you know the Canadian, I don't know if he's a philosopher, Marshall McLuhan? You know Marshall McLuhan, that guy?
Of course I know him because he's a communication scientist, and
right.
he coined the famous phrase, the medium is a message.
Yeah, he's got a couple good ones, actually. He's got another one.
Yeah.
We become what we behold. First we shape technology, and then technology shapes us. That's another one of his great sayings.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's a better description of what's happening with the South Korean model. It's not necessarily sublime to me. It's almost like what Dr. McLuhan was saying when he was talking about we become what we behold, in a sense. That the technology, first we make light and then light makes us. We become the creatures of artificial light. We become the TV watchers. We become the generation without darkness. That's what he was saying. Like, you are your medium. You are like the Gen Zs and these people. They are going to be the phone watching people, whereas we're kind of the TV watching people, or you know what I'm saying? And your
Yes.
media is a part of what you are and who you are. And when somebody says light pollution is a sign of success, that's what Marshall McLuhan is talking about. You are the technology. Now, the technology is reshaping how you think about the world, and maybe not in a good way, Bernd. Maybe that needs to change.
Yeah, but I think it's important to get clear of the concepts from a neutral point, and then you can tell yourself if you like it or not, or what to do against it. But I think it's important to first understand ourselves as the humans.
Mm.
And of course, Marshall McLuhan made a good point when he says that we invent technology and we adapt to it.
Mm-hmm. No, then it makes us. We shape it, and then it shapes us. Right? There's
Yeah,
like an
so it's a
evolutionary
circle.
force in it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's like we are the people without darkness or something. Like, that's something to say that. We're the generation that that does not know the cosmic sublime. And what does that mean? Is that maybe that's the reason why we have such poor political discourse, because we're the people that don't know the cosmic sublime. Like, think about the pyramids, Bernd. I think the Great Pyramid in Giza is aligned with the center star of Orion's belt or something like that every
Yeah, I
12,500
heard about
years.
that.
Something ridiculous like that. How the hell did they know that? Like that's there were our relationship to the stars, even religiously or culturally, never mind maybe even evolutionarily, is deep and long in our history.
Yes, I completely share your point. It's just the question is if we want to if you talk to politicians, do you want to tell them about the alignment of the pyramids in Giza, or do you want to tell them about starving animals in their own cities? So
I
I
think
think
I
you
want to
can
tell
catch
them
them
about the
easier.
pyramids. I think I want to tell them about the pyramids. I'm going to say, look, buddy, you realize that our ancestors built this massive cultural piece of work that nobody knows how they built it, and it's perfectly aligned every 12,500 years to this stupid star here. And that Sphinx thing, that was the lion or whatever, it looks at the
Hmm.
astrological sign Leo on the same day. Like, that means something. I don't know what it means, Bernd, but it means something. People should know that, and they should know that we need to have a relationship with the stars. So I don't know. I don't know how to start the awareness in people's minds, and that's what Restoring Darkness is about. We're trying to get the message out there that light pollution is pollution, and we're missing something. And I don't know if it's the animal play that's going to do it. I don't know if it's the cosmic sublime spirituality. I don't know what it's going to take to make this issue just up there with other environmental issues like plastics in the ocean and carbon emissions and everything else. I think it's on par. It should be on par in the human consciousness with those issues. 100%, maybe ahead of them.
Yes, currently the issue of light pollution is getting some awareness, some attention in Germany, because we have to save energy. So everybody knows that we have to save energy since many years.
Mm-hmm.
But since the Russian war against Ukraine, Germany has no Russian gas anymore. And therefore, they, for the first time in my city where I live in Cologne, they illuminate the cathedral, the Cologne Cathedral, very medieval, a very famous and old building. Um, and well, there was talking about not to illuminate it since many years, but they didn't stop it. But 2 months ago, they stopped it because this current energy crisis made them to realize that it's a waste of energy.
Hmm. Well, I don't want, I talk a lot about energy, and I often say to people that we can't we like the problem with countries like Congo, developing countries that are very underdeveloped. The number one problem is that they don't have enough energy, right? They don't have enough electricity. Like a lot of people don't realize that. Like they just don't have electricity in the Congo, right? So, oh, why can't they build better cobalt mines in the Congo? Well, they don't have any electricity in the Congo, so the only way to get the cobalt out is for kids to smash the rocks with hammers. Like that's
Mm.
basically the reason why. If they had electricity, they would build that stuff, trust me. But they don't have any energy. I don't like this energy poverty mindset that's taken over since the Russian war. This idea that people don't have a right to energy. I don't like it. I think we need to create clean energy so we can use as much of it as we want without any pollution.
Well, I think there's generally a different view on this issue in Germany and in North America.
Mm,
I think, as far at least it's my impression that in North America, people, including you, yeah, they think spending energy is not a problem, and we have to produce clean energy.
mm,
But in the German discussion, it's quite obvious that we have to save energy. And I think we should make a difference between developed countries and the Congo. Of course,
of
the
course.
Congo should produce more energy, and they should do it in another way than we did in Europe, because in Europe energy production is centralized. We have power plants and
Hmm.
distributed from the power plants. And I think
Hmm.
the future of African energy is decentralized solar and maybe wind. I don't know. Perhaps mostly solar energy in every little village.
Mm.
Um, so I think there's a general different access to this issue in
So
German
let me,
and
let
North
me
American.
like if it's possible, let's you're going to speak as a German, and you're going to say that I think the German word is the Zeitgeist in Germany. Is that the right word? The
Yeah, you
Zeitgeist,
pronounce it Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's that people have accepted a bit of energy poverty, is what you're saying, and that
It's
they're
not just about the current crisis. It's generally we want to save, and the current crisis is bringing is this even more into awareness.
So I would say that that in the past, North Americans, including Canadians, were completely oblivious to how much power they used and couldn't care less. And I think right now, there's sort of like more of an apathy in energy use by comparison to Europeans, but we're moving in that direction, and I don't like it. I want people to come back to the other direction because Ontario's electricity, I think, is 90% carbon free already. So the province I live in, all of the electricity is produced by nuclear or hydroelectricity. So it's already existing dams and nuclear power plants. And so there's very little carbon in our electricity. And so I want to tell people, hey, we should use as much electricity as we want here in Ontario because it doesn't make any carbon dioxide. And nobody knows
Yeah, but
that.
you could if in Germany the first argument against this would be to say let's build a cable and transport it 2,000 kilometers south to big city, and then we can use this clean energy in populated areas.
Yeah. So but the problem is that nobody will buy Ontario. And we're a little bit off topic here, but Ontario, you can't shut off nuclear power plants. Okay. So once they're running, at least the ones that are built in Ontario with the Canadian technology, once they're running, they're running. You can't turn them down or stop them from running, right? And so Ontario has to pay US states, Michigan and New York and these places to take our clean energy. We pay them to take it. And that what they do is they shut off their gas and coal. And then we pay them to take our energy. So Ontarians actually subsidize American coal generation, and it's a perverted system. But what I'm saying
It's
is that
interesting. In yeah,
it's a
in
lack of
Germany,
knowledge. It's a lack of
uh,
knowledge.
in, I think it's when I hear that it's depending on the individual situation of the countries.
Sure.
So the Germans they don't like nuclear power
No.
plants. I don't share this opinion, but most or many Germans, at least the politicians, they have been shutting down nearly all nuclear power plants. And the opposite is taking place in our neighbor country in France.
Hmm.
So there are dozens of nuclear power plants running. But we don't have this situation that you described. We are importing this French nuclear energy,
Hmm.
and we pay for it. It's not the French
Yeah.
people who pay for
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Right. I think Ontario's run by idiots, to be honest with you. I think it's been run by idiots for a long time.
Yeah,
The difference is that
yeah.
that we can afford to be that way because Ontario is super rich. Like most people don't understand how rich Canada is as a nation in terms of how big it is and its resources and the gold and the oil and the water and all the stuff we have in Canada. It's an extremely wealthy nation by comparison to Germany, which is a tiny
Yeah,
nation.
you can be happy about that because I think in upcoming decades, this natural resources will become more and more important because many are located in China and they will not share it for free. And so you can be happy in Canada that you have many resources.
Oh yeah, we can fit Germany and France into Ontario. Like you can fit that into Ontario, and I think Quebec can take Germany, France, and Spain all into Quebec itself. Just the provinces, they're huge places, right? But back to light pollution here. Um, there's how are you on board with me when you say do you agree that light pollution or darkness restoration or however we want to call this is an environmental problem that is as important for us to solve as carbon emissions and plastics in the ocean. Would you agree with that statement?
Uh, Actually, I would. You don't like to hear it, but I would not agree. I think
Okay.
it is an important issue, but it's not as important as carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide is directly destroying the basis of our lives, or at least of the lives in many developing countries. And of course, light pollution is also destroying life, animal life, and secondary also human life. But it's not as hard as of a problem as carbon dioxide, in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Okay. Well, I disagree.
Yeah, you should, but it depends on the point of view. For
Mm.
me, as a person who is trying to see the philosophy behind the astronomy and our connection to the universe. It's very, very important for our mind. The carbon dioxide problem is more a technical problem, and for our minds, of course, it's a shame that we've been connected to the universe since mankind is existing, and it's just since 50 years or so that most people, at least in Europe, are living in places where they are not no longer able to see the Milky Way. So there's something definitely going wrong.
Hmm. I would push back on this though. I don't believe the carbon dioxide problem is solvable. I don't think we can solve that problem. I don't have any hope for a resolution to that problem. I think uh, either the technology that is required does not exist. Um, I think civilization collapse will happen before. I think humans should just accept climate change. I don't think there's any way around it. I don't think there's any hope at all. Whereas I believe that light pollution is a solvable issue. We have the technology. We have all the information we need to do this. It's not an engineering problem. It's not a research and development problem. It's simply a will to deploy and fix the problem. And so that's where I take issue with comparing it, in my mind, to carbon, which is not a solvable problem. They have no idea how to solve the problem.
I completely agree that light pollution is much, much, much easier to solve than carbon dioxide. I
Mm.
think it's not, to add this, I think it's not impossible to solve the carbon dioxide problem because it's not on or off. So it's either solved or not solved. There are
Mm.
many degrees how much carbon dioxide emissions we have. And
Mm.
if we reduce it a little bit, it will be very beneficial, even
Are you
if we can't
talking
solve
about
it. But
reducing the amount we increase every year? Because we actually
uh,
continue to create more and
both.
more.
Yeah. At first, we have to stop to produce more, and I think in 10 years or so, the world will start to emit less. That's a hope. But I agree with you that anyway we will have disastrous problems. But let's forget about this carbon dioxide issue because
Sure.
I completely agree that it's quite easy technically to solve the light pollution issue. It's just about what you mentioned earlier to shade the lamps and the color temperature
Hmm.
and maybe some regulations regarding advertisement
Mm.
plates, which
Sure.
illuminate a lot of light, and let's say sports facilities.
And lighting
Myself, I'm a
controls.
member.
And lighting controls. And also
Lighting
lighting
controlled.
controls. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's from a if we just want to solve this problem, it's by 100 times easier than a carbon dioxide problem to solve it. I agree completely.
Yep. If I was in Vegas right now and they had odds and they said, will humans ever stop producing more carbon every year? Or will they, without civilization, collapse, total collapse across the board? I bet you the odds would be like 10,000 to 1, like the realistic odds. I don't think there's any hope. But anyway, that's a whole other, maybe we should start another podcast where I talk to people about that because if you look at the facts of it, it's almost impossible to solve. There's so many problems with it. It's so
Yeah.
many different areas. Even the electric cars, they produce so much carbon to make the electric cars. It's like you're stuck. There's no way. There's
But electric cars are a good example. Of course, you have to produce a lot of carbon dioxide to produce an electric car. But in
yeah.
the end, if you see the total life cycle of a car, of a conventional car and of an electric car, it's just let's say half the amount of carbon dioxide. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's just half the amount, there are in the end several thousand or million people less dying. So I think we should continue working on electric cars.
I mean, I don't know. I think that mitigation of damage is probably the better angle in my mind than actually.
Yeah, I agree. There will be huge damage. I think we agree on
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
we can try to limit it a little bit.
I really, we went in a lot of different directions here. We're coming up on 45 minutes. I love podcasts because you just go wherever you want to go. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to the Restoring Darkness listeners about your work? Maybe something that I've missed or a point you want to make before we close the show?
Not directly about my work, but there's one issue which I'm facing often when shooting in so-called dark skies. It's ski tourism, the winter sport ski. Do I pronounce it correctly? It's
You got
ski.
it. Yeah, ski. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is associated with a lot of environmental impact.
Mm-hmm.
There are complete woods disappearing for the ski slopes,
Mm-hmm.
and in the end, it's a lot of light pollution because all those ski slopes have to prepare it in the night
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, in order to make them work in daytime for the tourists.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also independently from light pollution, ecologic catastrophe, because you need a lot of energy to produce artificial snow and so on. But in the end, what I want to say, I've often been in the Alps, and I go to the remotest mountaintops you can imagine and put up my camera. And then somewhere in the background there are those machines preparing the ski slopes, and they are very very bright, illuminating the whole landscape.
Mm.
And this is really a little bit of destruction of creation.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I love night skiing. Like I love to go skiing at night. That's my favorite time to go skiing. Is
Yeah.
actually on a nice -5. It's not too cold or windy, and it's night, and you're going down the slopes, and there's lights and all that. But you're right, it's a massive source of light pollution in an area which is a wilderness area as well, often. And
Yeah,
you
it's not
take a
about
look.
the people. It's not about
Yeah.
the people skiing in the night. It's about the machines
Oh, really?
preparing the slopes. That's the thing which is
And are they going up and
producing
down
a
the
lot of.
slopes? Are they going up and down the slopes? What are they doing
Yeah,
there?
they condense the snow so that it's
Okay.
more
Grooming.
fun
They
to ride
groom
it
it.
down.
They groom it. It's
Yeah,
called
I don't
grooming.
know
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. They
Yeah, yeah.
prepare it that it's perfect the next day,
And is
and
that
they have.
light moving up and down the hill? It's moving all night long as well?
Yeah, it's moving
Oh,
all the time, and it's not just one engine. There are dozens of engines
sure.
over many square kilometers
Yeah.
polluting it's especially in Austria. I'm talking about Austria,
Mm,
polluting the Austrian night sky. And it's from November to April, so 5 months or 6 months a
mm.
year. And yeah, I don't think it's today we should not um, we should not support such kind of tourism.
Hmm. Yeah, good luck. That's a tough one, especially in Austria where they have all those and
Yeah,
that
I'm not personally
yeah,
involved. You asked
yeah,
me if I have a message,
yeah,
and I have a message
yeah,
to
that's
all
a tough one.
Austrians: shut down your ski slopes. I don't know what's in Canada, and I have no problem at all with people skiing themselves in the night. I'm doing that
Uh,
myself when I go to my shooting locations.
sure,
I'm on skis.
sure.
No problem about that. It's just about this mass preparation of slopes.
It's interesting too because the moving of the lights makes them a lot more distracting as well than just a stationary light. It's We had another German on a couple weeks ago talking about the lights on top of windmills blinking all night long. And so the first step was to make them blink at the same time so that all the windmill aircraft lights were blinking at the same instead of them going off at different patterns. And the second part of that was to turn them off 98% of the time. And it was a wonderful gift to the people that lived in the areas around the windmills. And so the moving or the blinking lights are even more distracting than stationary lights when it comes to light
Yeah.
pollution and darkness restoration and this sort of thing.
Yeah,
Very
I
distracting.
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that. And we have a lot of windmills in Germany, so this is really yeah, very widespread kind of light pollution. And yeah, I hope they manage to shut down these red lights in future.
Yeah, Germany's leading on that. Actually, they have the regulations. They got everything. Did we put that podcast up already, Scott? Yeah, it's up.
Yeah,
It's
you
on the.
do. I
Yeah,
I I listen to it.
yeah.
I
That's a
think.
great technology. That's going to be exported around the world. The software and the technology. It's going to be an export business for Germany. Another good export business for the German economy to export that technology. Ontario has lots of windmills as well.
Yeah, but today, no, Germany made big errors. Now, nearly all the manufacturing of windcraft is made in China.
Ah,
It was developed in Germany 10 years ago, and then it was sold by German politicians to China. I'm simplifying a little bit, but
sure.
in general, it went that way.
Hmm.
Now all our wind power plants are manufactured in China.
Well, what are you going to do, folks?
Uh,
I don't know
not
what to
not just
say.
Ontario has a problem with politicians.
Yeah. Oh my God! You know what? Like, you look at some of the decisions that are made sometimes, and I work on this issue globally and then locally. I know like the Canadian Astronomical Society. I know some people there, and they call me and they talk to me, and it's so difficult. Like with the greenhouses are a huge issue in Ontario. These greenhouses that grow marijuana, they have weird
Same
pink
in the
lights
Netherlands.
and
Mm.
it's so awful and they can't get it it's like they finally after 15 years got them to change one minor law. It takes forever to make progress, and
Mm.
it wears advocates down. The length of the time we need to strengthen those people. The Restoring Darkness podcast we need to build a community and be there for each other on this project, which we can solve, folks. That's right, we can solve this problem. Don't get depressed. We're going to see the stars again, hopefully in my lifetime. Maybe. But I think it's going to take 50 to 100 years. That's right. But right now we're in the stage where we have to teach, we have to advocate, we have to educate, we have to align ourselves. And you know what? If you're in the lighting industry, I got a little secret for you, okay? This is the biggest bonanza in the history of lighting bonanzas. That's right. You should advocate for light pollution cessation because it's going to mean we get to sell a lot of light fixtures. That's right. Thanks to the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors for presenting this show. And of course, I'm going to mess up his name right now, but Bernd Pröschold. And you can check him out on Facebook where he has, I'm sure he's got some of his pictures up there. And also sternstunden.net. That's STERNSTUNDEN.net. Thanks for listening.
Look no further for dark sky friendly products than Evluma. Since its first product launch, Evluma has carried one or more International Dark Sky Association certified models. If your customer cares about light pollution, suggest the OmniMax with shielding or the AreaMax with full cutoff to reduce uplight and glare. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of darkness.